What is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of the Second of Strength podcast. As always, I'm just grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you spend your seconds with me. And as somebody who believes that you can literally change your life with one single second of strength, I'm glad that you're deciding to spend a few of those seconds with me. So thanks for being here. Look, today we're going to talk about balance. We're going to talk about what happens when life gets off balance, how we can get back on track. And I think that as I've had a lot of conversations with people, and even in my own life recently, I've noticed these moments where I'm feeling a little bit off-centered, a little bit off balance. And so this episode is designed to help you, whether you're a teenager, whether you're an adult, mom, dad, business owner, whatever you are, to help you kind of get back on track when you are feeling out of whack, off balance a little bit. And I always think about when you remember when we were kids, and some of you are still younger, but if you've ever been on a merry-go-round, right? Like we used to go to these parks and there's always a merry-go-round, which today, if I get on anything that spins me in circles for any amount of time, I immediately get dizzy and feel sick, but that is beside the point. Like the teacups, if you've been on the teacups at Disneyland, those things, just even looking at them makes me feel sick these days. However, when we were young, we used to go on the merry-go-round. And what was interesting about the merry-go-round was if you were not centered, like you could work your way to the middle of that merry-go-round, and then it was a pretty good ride, pretty easy, pretty seamless, no big deal. But if you got on the outside of the merry-go-round, you, one, felt dizzier, and for me, a lot sicker. And then two, the people on the outside always were the ones that fell off. If you could make your way to the middle of the merry-go-round, you would not fall off of it. You would be secure in that place because of really like the centrifugal force, right? Like it's spinning around, you are staying centered, you're staying in a tight spot. Like if you were to spin a top, right? And this top, when it first starts, is like this perfect, spinning top. And then as soon as it starts wobbling, as soon as it gets a little bit off balance, that's when it topples over and falls. And so I think the very same thing of a merry-go-round. If you were able to get to the center, then you felt better. You felt safer. You felt less sick. It was just a better experience overall for you. And if you got to the outside of the merry-go-round, then that's where you would fall off, right, and put yourself in danger. So I want you to think about that in terms of your life. If you are in a place where you are centered, where you are balanced right now, then you're in a pretty good spot. But if you, for any number of reasons, are starting to feel off center, off balance, that's when we put things in jeopardy. That's when things start falling apart. That's when we start feeling sometimes like we're not good enough, or we start doubting our abilities because we've gotten off balance. And it doesn't really mean anything about our abilities or who we are or what we can become. It just means that we need to maybe pull some different levers and get back on track. So for some people, you can get off balance in any given day. It can be just like, hey, my day was supposed to be one thing, and then by the end of the day, it wasn't what you expected, and so you can feel off balance there. It might be a season of life. You might be in a season of life that feels a little bit out of whack right now. And that's okay. Seasons come, seasons go, seasons change. We're going to get through this. You're going to be okay. I promise that. We're going to make it through. But we do have to do a little bit of work to get there. And so this episode is designed to do that. So the very first thing is, if you're feeling this, if you're feeling off balance, if you're feeling kind of this lack of equilibrium, right? I just want you to take a step back. Just pause for a minute. Stop spinning your wheels. Just pause, take a step back, and just recognize it, that you're a little off balance, recognize what's going on, and then we can step back into it. But I think too often we just kind of start spinning our wheels and keep going. A few years back, we were on a vacation in Mexico, and my brother-in-law drove this like 15-passenger van into this parking lot. Well, the parking lot had beach sand in it, and so he got this huge 15-passenger van stuck in the sand, and as he kept trying to spin his wheels, he just got deeper and deeper and deeper in it. And that's what I don't want to have happen. We can't keep spinning our wheels in an attempt to get out or get unstuck, because spinning your wheels is exactly what got you stuck in the first place. And so we've got to change something. We've got to change, our footing. We've got to change our view. We've got to change a couple of things to be able to get back in balance, able to get back on track. So the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to define, and this is one of the reasons we get off balance, is because we don't even know what balance means. What does balance mean in your life? So that's the very first thing, is I want you to define what balance looks like. What is it supposed to look like? If you look in the dictionary, it says balance is an even distribution of weight, enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady. So if it's an even distribution of weight so that we can be steady in our life, then we've got to figure out what is maybe weighing us down too much. What are we not putting enough emphasis in our life? Where are we getting off balance? And to me, I look at the really 5 key principles that do that. It's faith, or maybe not in a religious sense, even though I do believe that's important, but really a hope, right? Like faith and hope in something greater, in something more, in something out there. So faith and hope, family, your fitness, your finances, and then what I would call a focused passion. If you look at Arthur Brooks, who teaches happiness as a professor at Harvard, he says this, he calls it meaningful work, right? But a focused passion. Are we focused on something that we love? And it maybe not be your like 9-to-5 day job or whatever that may be, or you may have an hourly job that you just don't love, but do you have passion outside of that? Do you have meaningful work that you're putting into your life? So these are the 5 areas that I would just do a gut check on: your faith, your family, your fitness, your finances, and your focused passion. When I talk about finances, I'm not really talking about do you make enough money. I'm really talking about are you balancing those things right? I mean, we're talking about balance here, but is it frivolous spending? Are you just spending money like retail therapy because you just want to feel better for a moment? Are you delaying gratification? So that's what I mean about finances. It's really putting those things in check, and because that's the one thing on here where we do control it, but there's a lot of other factors that go there. So faith, check your family, make sure you're spending time with the people that you love, and that can be relationships as well. Fitness, finances, and then a focused passion. So look at those things right there and define what balance means for you in those areas. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is we want to balance our lives. What's important, what makes us happy, what gives you peace, what fills your cup. Those are the types of things that we need to be constantly managing and like balancing the levels of. And if we are not putting enough focus or emphasis on any one of those given areas, then we're going to feel out of balance. You're going to start to feel like things are falling apart a little bit. So take a moment, pause, define what balance looks like for you in those key areas: faith, family, fitness, finances, and focused passion. The second thing is, one of the things that gets us off balance is that we stop practicing self-discipline, right? We just kind of go about our day. We just kind of get into this, go with the flow, whatever happens, happens, and we stop practicing this self-discipline. Well, this is where we've got to really take a step back and define, plan what we want for our day. So, are you distracted? Are you spending too much time on your smartphone? Are you spending time on video games? Are you spending time on things that don't matter at all because of the instant gratification, because it feels good in the moment? Or maybe it's escapism, right? You go to your phone so that you can escape the world for a little while. Well, that's all fine and dandy in certain instances if you want to, if you're being intentional about it. Like, hey, for a minute, I'm going to go and spend some time on my phone so I can just, relax for a little bit. But if we are spending so much time on our phones and we are so distracted by what's on there and we just scroll for hours, if you ever check your screen time on your phone, I think that would be an indication. But are you distracted right now from what matters most in your life? Because if we are, then it's very easy to feel out of balance. So because smartphones occupy so much of our time. So, and there's other things that can distract you. There's other things that can get you off track. But the question is, are you being self-disciplined? Are you disciplining yourself or spending your time in the way that you should be spending your time? Or are you letting distractions and other things dictate how you spend your day? So that would be one area where I would look. And where sometimes we feel out of balance. The other area where we feel out of balance sometimes is when we aren't being consistent with our actions. And so personally, I know what makes me pretty happy, right? So spending time with family is one of those key things. Talk about those: faith, family, fitness, finances, and focused passion. But as I look at those areas, like there's certain aspects of that where I have to be consistent with my actions to maintain that level of happiness, right? I do need to spend intentional time with my family every day. I wake up every morning and do a workout. If I don't get that workout in, or it's not as good of a workout, I do feel that in my day, right? And then focus, passion. Did I spend time in the day pouring into you? Did I spend time recording a podcast, showing up on social media so I can help more people, so I can, get into more schools, to help more teenagers, to help more people be happier and live this good life. I know that these are things that make me happy, and it all revolves around growth. It all revolves around progress. But I would take a look at your life. What are those consistent actions that you know you should be doing every single day? And if you're not doing them, or if you get out of a habit of doing those things every day, then my guess is you're feeling off balance a little bit. And so you have to take one step backwards, reevaluate where you're at, and start doing those things once again, right? And sometimes when we get out of the habit, it's really hard to get right back into the habit, but I would encourage you to do it. Do it anyway. Find your 1 second of strength and just start again. And I promise those are the things that are going to get you back in line so that you can rebalance and recenter your life. So be consistent with your actions. Another area where a lot of times we don't feel, or we start to feel out of balance, is when we stop planning ahead. And I definitely feel this in my life, and I'm guessing you do too, is when you stop having a plan, you stop, like so much stops, right? And so what does your life look like? Do you have a vision for your life? And that could be a long-term vision of your plan, but also what does the next week look like? What does the next day look like? And sometimes those plans don't go according to plan. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but are we doing that? So once a week, I would plan for the week. I would remember that a simple plan is the path to prioritizing your short-term and your long-term goals. And too often we just go towards our goals without any sort of plan at all. And the question is, how can we reach any short-term or long-term goals if we aren't planning our actions, planning our time, planning where we're at? And if we're not doing that, then my guess is it's one of the reasons that you're starting to feel out of balance in your life. So remember that your time is important. Again, I talk about seconds, your 1 second of strength, and how valuable that time is. Well, if we aren't planning our time, if we aren't planning ahead, then we are admitting to ourselves that our time is not important, because then our time is going to be spent in any way that just comes up, right? And we will go to and from, and whatever thing like pulls our attention, that's where we're going to spend our time. But if we have planned our day and planned our life and planned this vision for what we want, and we have these short and long-term goals, then it's going to be a lot easier. So planning always promotes clarity. It promotes motivation. It promotes intentionality and accountability. That's why planning is so important. And if you're out of balance in your life, my guess is that those things are faltering: clarity, motivation, intentionality, and accountability. So let's start with a simple plan. Let's start with planning our day. Let's start by planning the next hour. Let's start by planning the next 30 minutes. And as we start to build that habit of planning, then we can move on to bigger and better things. So planning. The last one is that when we feel out of balance, it's probably because we're not taking care of ourselves. And I know this has happened in my life. And, going back, I think I talked about it a couple podcast episodes ago, but going back when, look, I was the guy who played video games a lot at night, and I ate a lot of Oreos, and I sat on the couch, and I showed up as a parent and as a dad and as a spouse. Like I showed up for sure, but I wasn't real happy with myself, and my life felt out of balance, even though, family and everything was okay. And you go back to those things I talked about at the beginning: faith, family, fitness, finances, and focus, passion. Well, fitness was way out of whack for me. And so that was an area where I stepped in. So there's a little acronym, just C, right? How do you see yourself? SEE. And when you think about that, SEE, it's if you love yourself, then you will S, get enough sleep, E, eat healthy and good foods. And that doesn't mean you can't have an Oreo every once in a while, right? Like you can do those things, but you need to balance that. So C, S, get enough sleep, E, eat the right foods, and E, exercise. And those three things not only are going to change how you see yourself, but they're going to change how other people see you as well, right? It's going to enable you to show up in other people's lives just as the same you show up in your life. So you have to start taking care of yourself. And if you are someone who has been on the fence or been reluctant to take care of yourself, there's a couple things. From a sleep perspective, one thing I recommend is set a dedicated time that lights are out. So it might be 10:30, maybe you need to push yourself earlier to 10 o'clock, maybe it's 10:45, but set a timer, 10:45, and then have the self-discipline that at 10:45, lights are out. And that means that the TV's off. It means that you're in bed. It means that you're not scrolling on your phone. It means that you're not doing any of that stuff. At whatever time you choose, love yourself enough to shut it down, because your body needs that rest and relaxation that comes from good, appropriate sleep. Eating right. Sometimes we have to stop things to start things. And, it's easy to go, man, I need to eat healthier, and then just buy a bunch of vegetables, and then after a couple of days all the vegetables are bad, so we go back to eating whatever is in the fridge or in the pantry, right? But sometimes it's about subtraction. Subtraction is the easiest way to start addition in our lives. And so I would start by going in your pantry and finding your 1 second of strength and throwing away the temptations, throwing away the snacks, the candies, the things that are kind of holding you back or that you can do better. And it can be really hard to do that, but that's what your 1 second of strength is. Find your 1 second of strength, pick it up off the counter, and throw it in the garbage can. And when you do that, the very next second will be the best second of your life, because you know that you did something good for yourself. So sleep, eat, and then exercise. I don't care what time of day you do it, and I don't really care what you do. I don't care if it's lifting weights. I don't care if it's running. I don't care if it's cardio or HIIT cardio or going on a walk. I just care that you do it, because you're important enough to do that for yourself. You have to do it, because again, this one of when your life is out of balance is because you're not taking care of yourself. It's because of this acronym SEEN. It's because you're not doing those little things to see yourself, to believe in yourself. So get appropriate exercise. For me, I wake up early, 5:30 in the morning, which feels really early, might feel crazy to you, but it's the habit that I've established in my life because I wanted to put myself first and fill my cup first before I start pouring into work or you or my family or anybody else. It starts with me, because at the end of the day, we can't pour from an empty cup. So my strategy in my life is to fill my cup up first, so that I can then pour into you and everybody else that's important in my life. So I hope that's helped you today. Again, going back to the merry-go-round, if you are on the outside of the merry-go-round and you are not centered, then life is going to feel off balance. So bring those things back into balance in your life. Pause, take a deep breath, look at these areas that we talked about today, between defining what balance means, practicing self-discipline, being consistent with your actions, planning ahead, and taking care of yourself. And when you can start to put those things back into place, these building blocks of your life, you are going to be centered. And that doesn't mean that things aren't going to come and throw your day off and things are going to get crazy. Like, that always happens. But when you're centered, you don't fall off. When you're centered, you can handle those things that are coming your way in a way that you're going to be able to weather the storms of life just that much quicker. So look, you deserve to do the things that make you happy. You deserve to do the things that give you peace. You deserve to do the things that fill your cup. It's about defining what those things are. And when you do that, I promise, life is going to feel a little better. You're going to feel a little bit more balanced, and you're going to be happier overall. And that's what I want most for you. So if this helped you, I appreciate it if you'd go take 15 seconds, go to wherever you listen to this podcast, give it a 5-star review, share it with someone else. You can take a screenshot and you can drop it onto Instagram and tag me at Real Tanner Clark. I just want to help more people. I hope this helped you, and I'll leave you the way I always leave you. Go find your 1 second of strength and be happy.